Okay, today we have what I believe is Series 9 that I've casted of the TA Escalation Pro 2021 tournament. And this will be the first round 3 game I have casted so far. So boys and girls, we are getting pretty deep into the tournament. This map is called Corrupted Conflict. I believe this is a round 3 exclusive map, and so as we get further into the rounds, we will see new maps. I've never seen this map before, but it is interesting. As you can see here in the middle, there's only one way through, a mini gauntlet, if you will. There's a single pass that the units can get through. There's no other way unless you are to fly transports over the sides, which is an option. And the two players we have in round 3 are Wotan in green, the armed commander, who has gone vehicle first. And in the bottom right, we have Harald, the light blue corps commander, who has also gone vehicle first. It does look like Wotan has sent some Jeffies down the right side of the map after he passed through the little bridge here in the middle. And he is going to attempt to sneak his annoying little Jeffies down the right side, but it does look like he will be thwarted pretty efficiently by Harald. As I've said before, Wotan is subbing in for Stag Jr., who dropped out of the tournament for reasons unknown, but he has very graciously decided to step in. And we all appreciate his willingness to take the place of another player. Both Harald and Wotan are very experienced, very good players, and either of them could quite easily win the tournament. So we will have to see which one of them comes out on top in this particular game. It does look like Harald has sent up quite a contingent of weasels to the top of the map. He's certainly looking to get into Wotan's base. Here he's coming to the left side, and he has found himself a juicy construction vehicle, which will almost certainly die, and another construction vehicle near the middle of the map, which will almost certainly die. So taking out 2 construction vehicles in the early game is a huge economic blow to your opponent. It will prevent Wotan from expanding the way he wants to, and certainly that will give Harald the early game advantage going forward. In the middle of the map, we see a battle here between a small group of instigators on the side of Harald and a few flashes on the side of Wotan, but it does look like we have quite a few more flashes that are coming down from the top in a reinforcement. This is a pretty intense battle. It does look like Wotan has the number superiority. He does have more flashes, and so Harald has smartly decided to back off. And Wotan will attempt to push this advantage and bring these flashes down into Harald's contingent of instigators. But in the meantime, he will be walking into this group of light laser towers. He thinks better of it and slowly backs off. Let me just... You be quiet. So in the middle, we still have an army of instigators versus Wotan's flashes. In equal numbers of flashes and instigators, it all does come down to micro. As I've said in previous casts, flashes do tend to work better if you can get very close to your opponent's units and surround them, while instigators, having their precise lasers, do tend to do a little better if they can kite their opponent and stay at a range. Harald has managed to get a small group of instigators past Wotan's army of flashes, and he is going to attempt to take these into Wotan's base, but it doesn't look like he's going to get very far because there was a light laser tower and a defender just waiting for this particular contingency, and thus it does look like Wotan very much came out on top of that particular engagement. But unfortunately, Harald has managed to sneak another contingent of instigators to the top of the map, and he is now going to make his way into Wotan's base, who has deleted his own winter generators to give his commander the opportunity to defend the fundamental building blocks of his own base. Great D-guns there. It looks like he thwarted what could have been a much greater catastrophe. In the middle, I'm going to slow it down here. We have yet another combat between a group of instigators and a group of flashes, but it does look like Harald has far and away the numbers advantage in this particular situation, and so Wotan will almost certainly lose this battle. Just looking at the map here, Harald has taken almost the entirety of the southern base of the southern portion of this map, and Wotan is a little bit stuck in the top left corner. That has a lot to do with what I said earlier. When Harald was able to kill those two construction vehicles early on in the game, that stunted his growth tremendously. In TA escalation, construction vehicles do take quite a long time to build as compared to other units. And because of that, every construction vehicle or K-bot you kill will put your opponent behind quite dramatically in the early game. And so just looking at the map here, we can see that having unfolded exactly the way that I predicted that it might. But Harald does seem to have quite an economic advantage at this point. He is on 70 metal per second to Wotan's 20, and thus he is able to produce quite a large war machine. He's able to create quite an army for Wotan to be able to have to deal with, and Wotan is smartly building javelins. Javelins are pretty good against instigators if you can keep them at a range. They do outrange instigators while having a similar speed. They might be a little slower, but overall, if microed correctly, they should be able to quite easily win a battle against instigators in equal numbers. But unfortunately, we aren't at equal numbers. Harald has quite a bit more instigators and is now on T2. He's building Wraiths. Wraith is the core skirmish K-bot. It has been called, I believe Postal called it, an upgraded instigator. That is, I'd say that's a fair characterization of the unit. It shoots red lasers at an insane speed, at a higher range than the instigator, does more damage than the instigator, and has quite a bit more health. But either way, they are quite good against T1 units. Being a heavy skirmish tank, they're quite good in a scrappy, close-range combat situation. And as you can see, they will absolutely tear through these light laser towers with no problem at all. And they're going to keep moving north here. Unfortunately, javelins are not so good against Wraiths. Wraiths are quite good against javelins, and he will most likely try to skirt this commander. He doesn't want to get D-gunned, but he will stay at a range here, and ultimately Harald will take the game. Very good game for both players. I think Harald got a huge advantage in that one when he took out the two construction vehicles at the start. As I've said before, construction vehicles take quite a long time to build in this mod, and are not cheap. And because of that, you have to be very, very careful about defending them and making sure that they are not lost, that they are not harassed or destroyed. without getting anything in return, because it will put you way behind having to try to rebuild those and then take over the metal spots on your side of the map. But either way, great game, and we're excited to see the next one. So, okay, this is game 2 of Series 9 that I have casted between Harald and Wotan. And we are on a map called Mangrove. And the reason it is called thus is that in order to play this map, you have to be a real man. And so, it looks as though Harald in the bottom left and the bright red trunks with the core commander is going economy first. He's building some solar collectors and metal extractors. Nothing too unexpected there. And in the top right, the neon orange arm commander, our Lord and Savior Wotan, who is also going for solar collectors and metal extractors. On this map, given that you do have some distance between the two bases, and of course the water, which is not traversable by non-amphibious units, it does give you the opportunity to focus a little bit more on your economy in the early game. And it does look like both players are going to take advantage of that. Now, Harald is going hovercraft first. I think on this map that is a very legitimate choice because there are no land bridges to connect to your opponent. And that does provide an opportunity for you to get to your opponent much faster than were you to go K-bot first, as Wotan has done. And I will be quite interested to see how Wotan decides to use K-bots here in the early game. He will not be able to harass his opponent with K-bots, unfortunately, because they cannot cross the water, at least at T1. At T2, you do have the pelicans, which can get across the water. But in any case, Harald will be able to bring his own scouts across the water into Wotan's base, and quite definitely will be very annoying. Quite certainly will take out some metal extractors, probably get some construction K-bots. Wotan is bringing some peewees in order to stop this harassment, and we'll have to see if they can prevent his base from being slowly raided by scrubbers at every opportunity, taking out every metal extractor they can find and every construction vehicle. Once again, it does look like Harald has managed to get an early game advantage simply because of the quality of his harassment onto his opponent's economy. And fortunately, Wotan was able to protect all of his construction K-bots. None of them died. But again, Harald was at the very least very annoying, taking out several metal extractors, which will most likely put Wotan behind in the early game, but certainly not out yet, not down for the count. It could still go either way. But another advantage of Harald going hovercraft first on this particular map is that he is able to bring his construction hovercraft, his construction vehicles, onto the other side of the map and thus gain an even more impressive economic advantage because he can build on the other islands, and he can even build in the sea if he wishes to pick up all these juicy metal spots underwater. So we will have to see how Wotan decides to respond. At this point, Wotan is just simply content to take all the metal spots on his own island. He is building some defenders throughout his island in order to prevent any more harassment by Harald's scrubbers. These defenders will do a pretty good job of taking out scrubbers, but unfortunately they won't do such a great job of dealing with the salamanders, who are have quite a bit more health than the scrubbers and who do quite a bit more damage and will be very annoying for Wotan to deal with. As I said, defenders alone will not be able to handle these, but a contingent of Pee-wees most certainly can. Again, just looking at the map, Harald has kind of expanded onto 2 islands, where Wotan is on 1 island, and thus Harald has a significant metal advantage at this point. He is at about twice as much metal per second, 22 to Harald's 44 metal per second, and he is continuing to try and harass with these salamanders. And Wotan is doing a decent job of thwarting them, but unfortunately Harald has now established a beachhead onto Wotan's island, and is going to attempt to build some LLTs down here and claim this territory for his own. Luckily, Wotan should be able to push this off with the group of Pee-wees that he currently possesses. But no, Harald is smartly building some wind generators to act as makeshift walls, which gives his LLTs time enough to slowly but surely take out the entirety of Wotan's Pee-wee force. Building nano walls is kind of an advanced tactic that you can use in any version, any iteration of the original Total Annihilation engine, in which you build a wall of a cheap structure such as a wind generator or metal storage, and these walls will temporarily prevent your opponent's attacks from hitting their target, whether that be a construction vehicle or a defense or whatever it is, and it can give you an edge over your opponent in a very close situation. So Harald, deciding to push his advantage, he has built Nixers, which are a long-range vertical missile launcher hovercraft for core, which are very good for taking out defenses. In escalation, these have been given a tracking rocket, and so in the original game they were quite inaccurate, but in this game it does look like the missiles will track their target to some degree, which make them quite a bit stronger against mobile units than they were in the original Total Annihilation, though it does look like their range has potentially been reduced as well. But overall, they are still very good for killing static defenses because their missiles outrange many static defenses and also do quite a bit of damage, especially to non-moving targets. Harald has also decided to claim the sea. He has built a contingent of Vikings, which are, let's see, not too expensive, 2,400 energy and 200 metal. But they are the core version of the missile destroyer, and they have found an advanced K-bot lab on the east shore of Wotan's island, and unfortunately Wotan is not going to be happy about that. We can see in the chat he is quite upset that he lost that advanced K-bot lab, which will prevent him again from even being able to travel into the sea with those pelicans. So it does look like Harald has now established this beachhead by building 3 vehicle plants. He is on Wotan's island with instigators, with Nixers, and he is pelting the shore with Vikings. And unfortunately, Wotan is most likely going to have to tap out. Let's see. Looking at Wotan's view, all he has is this tiny little base, I guess you could call it, of floating light laser towers and a few tidal generators and defenders. But overall, he is quite dead. Harald's decision to go hovercraft first on this particular map does seem to have been quite prescient. Worked out very well for him. and gave him a huge economic advantage and a huge advantage in terms of being able to harass his opponent. And with that, Wotan taps out. So, interesting game there. Again, I think going hovercraft first on this map with no land bridges, with no way to connect you and your opponent's base, was a very good choice. So, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next series.